Good evening. Welcome to Pueblo City County Library District. I am pleased to have Polly Washburn here with us tonight as we kick off the 48-hour film festival with a workshop on the 3 phases of production. Polly Washburn is an award-winning producer who works under the umbrella of storytelling via journalism, video, and web content. Very pleased to have you here with us tonight. Thank you, Polly.
Thank you, Regina Renee. Great to be here. Will I see the participants or not really? No. Okay, well, hello out there to those joining live and in the future. As Regina Renee said, I am a producer of films. I'm going to share my screen here. I've got some slides that will hopefully help us tonight walk through the 3 phases of production. And then I'll take questions if we can make that happen. That would be cool.
Wonderful.
All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. So the subtitle I gave tonight's talk was How to Make the Most of Every Hour by Planning Ahead. So this is the key, in my opinion, to producing is, especially for something like a 48-hour film project where you have a very limited amount of time, is you really want to plan ahead so that you know exactly what you're doing when it comes time to start filming. So just quickly about me, currently I just finished a documentary called Seeking Solutions with my partner. It's a 1-hour documentary. We interviewed 9 people about the American immigration system and created our documentary. And just list a couple other projects here that I've worked on over the years, including a feature-length film that won Best Picture at 2 American film festivals and Audience Choice Award at a 3rd one. So that's where the award winning comes in. But I did want to point out as well that I was the city producer for Toronto, for the 48-hour film project, the first time that the 48-hour film project was done there. So I do have experience in helping people understand what's required for the 48-hour film project and watching those films and seeing which ones were popular. So if people have questions about that, I would be happy to answer that as well when we get to the end. So I wanted to play you just a little trailer of that film, Passion Flower, that I mentioned, just to give you a taste of a period piece film that I created or helped create.
Hey, sweetheart.
Mommy, you look very beautiful.
My wife has been having some difficulty sleeping.
What do you think?
And you're concerned that...
It's just a little bit of stress.
It's actually a little bit more than that.
See right there, that's produced by Polly Washburn. All right, just wanted to give you a taste of the kind of project that I've worked on. So that one was a period piece set in the 1960s. So it took a lot of work to get the right cars and all the props and all that kind of stuff. So that's a bigger scale than you'll be doing here for the 48-hour film project. But what I'll do is talk to you about the 3 phases and talk about the different parts that you need to be thinking about in each phase. And I'll talk about it in terms of big feature-length film production, but I'll also make some notes about what will make sense for you working in the 48-hour film project. So pre-production. So this is before you start filming, you have to have a script. Do you have a question? No. Okay. Before you do anything, obviously you need to get a script together, and then find some actors, and then create storyboards, which is a way, think about a cartoon with different boxes in it that tell the story that you're going to have in a more visual way than a script does. And then break down your script, and I'm going to show you some examples of these things just to get a shot list. So that's your director and your director of photography would work together to do that. And here we go. Here's an example of what a script. Sorry, whenever I click on it, of course, moves ahead. So if you want to get fancy, this is what a script looks like. You can, of course, just create something in a Word document, and could even handwrite it if you had to. But the idea is to put in both the dialogue for all the characters and description of what's going on and where are you. Int stands for interior. So this is a script that starts in a car. So interior of a station wagon, day. So you want to be thinking, is it a daytime shot? Is it a nighttime shot? What's going on? If you can see, the person's name is in capitals, so Duncan. And then they've also capitalized props. So thinking ahead to what kind of props you might need if you were going to film this scene. And then you put the dialogue. So somebody, OS means off screen. So somebody's saying Duncan, and then you're telling the camera people what you want to have happen. You want to do a close-up on the rearview mirror. And then, excuse me, then you have Trent's dialogue. Are you sleeping? And then you could describe what the character is feeling, and then more dialogue. So that's what a script would look like. And then when I talk about breaking it down into a shot list, here's what a shot list looks like. So what you want to be thinking about is, ahead of time, before you get anywhere near a camera, sit down with the person who's going to be your videographer, also known as a director of photography, and figure out, okay, what are all the shots we want? So in the shot list, they're listing all the shots in order. And so again, are we inside or outside, interior or exterior? And then the shot type, I put the kinds of shots over here that are pretty typical: a wide shot, very wide shot, medium close-up, close-up. You could have a VCU, a very close-up. Whoop, sorry about that. And then who's in the shot? What characters are going to show up in the shot? And then a description of it. What's happening in the scene? So you could have a single scene with several different types of shots, right? So you could have a wide shot that captures everything in the scene, and then you could have a close-up of just one of the characters, or one of the characters' eyes, even super close-up. So just, you want to be thinking ahead of time what's going to happen in the scene and what's the order you're going to shoot it in. So what else do you need to be thinking about? You need to think, for you all, it's only going to be 2 days of shooting maximum. So what are you going to shoot on each day? If you have multiple locations, you need to figure out which locations you would shoot at. Maybe Saturday morning you'll shoot some stuff in the backyard, and then Saturday afternoon you'll shoot inside the house or in another outdoor location to keep social distanced outside. Then you need to think about those props. What props do you need on a film? This is called, the art director is in charge of that. But on your project, you might only have a few people, so people might be doing more than one thing. You need to think if there's any outfits, costumes that you need. And for lighting and gear, again, you may only have an iPhone or a regular phone, and but maybe you can get your hands on some lights that you can use in indoor scenes, whether those are professional lights or just lots of lamps, whatever you have available. Just again, be thinking ahead. What are you going to need to do your shoot? So that is the idea behind pre-production planning. Then you have to recruit a crew, and in another kind of project, you'd be negotiating salaries. But for a 48-hour film project, it's probably you and a few friends, and you'll decide who's going to do what. And then when you have your list of locations, you have to get permission, possibly, to shoot at those locations. I might be calling your mom and seeing if it's okay to come shoot some video there. You want to always be thinking ahead for food. If you do have some people volunteering to help you out, it's nice to pay them in food. And no matter what, you're going to get hungry at some point during the day. So it's a good idea to make sure you're thinking ahead about where's that food going to come. Because when it comes down to it, you're going to have to be working really, really fast. So the more things that you can take care of and not have to think about when you're actually filming, the better. And if you can, arrange for somebody to drop off some food, then that's going to save you some time. But definitely take breaks. So then you want to think about where the cast and crew need to be when. So maybe you've got like 4 different actors, but one of them's only in certain scenes. So that's something called a call sheet, which I do have an example of for you. Here you go. So this one, it's for a Michael Mann film. I think they made this up, but basically, showing in big letters what time people need to be somewhere. You don't have to make anything this fancy, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like. Basically, yours might be, again, a Word document that you send out by email or even just in the text of an email. But I just wanted to show you what it does look like on a movie set. And they say, what day is it? Shooting days. So in this case, they had 30 days to shoot. Of course, again, you only have 2. So are you going to have a little rehearsal before you start shooting? And people often put in the sunrise and sunset. So you can be planning ahead in terms of if you have to get everything shot before the sun goes down, you want to know when sunset is. Weather report, always nice. It's going to rain. You might have to think ahead about that. And then what are the scenes you're going to shoot in and what order are you going to shoot them in? So going back to that shot list, you would take your shot list and figure out like, okay, all of these scenes are happening in the house. So we're going to shoot them all at the same time. Even if they happen at different times in the script, we'll shoot them at the same time. So in this case, they're doing all the diner scenes at the same time. And then the cast numbers is who needs to be there for that scene. And DN is day or night. So again, thinking about, is it a daytime scene or a nighttime scene? They've got an all-star cast here on this call sheet. So that's the cast numbers that say which casts need to be there. So again, yours might not be this fancy. You might just have a list of which actors you need for which parts of the day. And then, again, what time, probably will not be picking people up, but thinking about when you need people to get places. And it's always good to err on the side of getting them there early is my suggestion to you. So, not so early that, people are standing around for hours, but things take longer than you think. So if you're lucky enough to get someone on board to do makeup, then you want to get your actors working with the makeup person. So this is MU for makeup. you want to get them working with the makeup person about an hour before their scene. I think that's basically it about call sheets. But again, obviously yours doesn't have to be this fancy, but just think ahead. Have you heard the theme? Think ahead. Okay, so that's the call sheet. And then your director of photography, and maybe, again, if it's only a couple of you working on the film, these positions might all end up being just 2 or 3 people. But you should definitely talk with your editor ahead of time if that's a separate person from your videographer. And they need to talk about things like frame rate and aspect ratio. So aspect ratio is like, is it going to be it'd be very rare these days to have a landscape up and down type thing. But if you're doing a TikTok type thing, that could be more up and down, but usually it's going to be landscape. And then frame rate just means how many frames per second are you shooting. So on a phone, you probably only have a couple of choices like 30 and 60. But if you have a digital camera, you might have some more options, and you need to decide ahead of time what that's going to be. And then resolution is like how big the files are going to be and how much information they have in them. So that might depend on, again, whether you're shooting on a phone or if you're shooting on a camera where you have SD cards that you can swap out. If you are going to be using SD cards, then you want to get a system in place for how you're going to back those up during the day so you don't lose any of your information. So again, just like think of what could go wrong and how you can avoid it. That's how I see the job of a producer. And these items having to do with the editor, there's going to be another workshop next week that's going to talk almost all about getting ready with the editor and how to have everything ready to go so that as soon as the footage starts coming in, the editor can get to work. So I recommend that workshop if you want to learn more about editing and how to prepare. So that's again the script, chat list. Okay, and then production. Okay, so we had pre-production, before production, and now production. We're in the production. So production just means basically the days the camera is running. That's a good way to think of production. So again, you want to make sure that your cast and crew have those call sheets. If anyone's going to be on camera, then I recommend creating a release form where they give you permission to use their image on camera. And just in case whatever you make now, you decide you do want to submit to a festival or something like that, it's a good idea to get release forms, and you can just Google. So all these things that I've been talking about, call sheets, release forms, you can just Google release form example and you'll find some online. Same with call sheets, same with shot list, all of those things. If you Google them, you'll find examples online that you can download and edit for your own purposes. So, I mean, something you find online isn't going to stand up in court for a big, huge release movie, but for these purposes, you should be fine. You're just basically saying, I got everyone's permission to film them. So slating. So if you've ever seen a movie about making movies, slating is when they do the action with the, it's called the slate. It's just the thing that tells you what scene you're on, what shot you're on, what take you're on. So the take means, so you've heard this, I'm sure, again, and if you've watched a movie about movies, take 1, take 2, take 3, means you did the scene and the director wasn't happy, so you did another take of it, or the actors wanted to try again. So marking this for each scene is really, really, really important when you get to editing, so that your editor knows what they're looking at. And especially helpful for them is if you do something called a shot or a take or a continuity log, which I have an example of here. So this one I left blank so that you could see, like, so that's what it would look like at the beginning of the day. It would be blank. So you would say, what scene are you shooting? Slate would mean what's written on the slate. So again, usually that's some combination of scene and shot and take. But if you have a digital slate, you could also put the time code in there. But the shot is which shot. So again, that goes back to your shot list. There we go. Here's our shot list. So remember, you gave all your shots a number. So that's going to come in handy when you're doing your slate and your log to say what's the shot number and then the take. So then the first take you would put 1 and then 2 and then 3. And the duration, that's not necessarily something you're going to do live on set, but when you get to the editing room, you might say, it's 30 seconds or starts at 1 minute 30 second on the camera and ends at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And again, what's going on in the shot. And then any notes like one of the actors messed up or a train came by, so we had to stop, anything that's going to give your editor a clue about, is this shot even going to be worth using? And then I put this in director rating or notes from the director, like, I really want this one. So you could put a star here of like, yeah, for sure, this is the take that we should use. That's again helpful to, if you end up doing 5 takes, you don't want the editor to have to go through and figure out which of the takes is the best one. It would be great if they already know, hey, look for the slate that says take 5 and use that. So that is, again, just some paperwork that will make life easier for your editor and make things go faster. All right, so that's, yes, so the slate and the log go together, basically. Sorry, this is all kind of hypothetical, but even if you do something that approximates the kinds of things I'm talking about, then I think you'll find that you're a step ahead when you get to the project. Okay, so then part 3 is post-production. So in this phase, you are done with the camera, right? So if production was when the camera's on, then post-production is after all the footage has been shot. Although I do want to say for the 48-hour film project that you might mix up your production and post-production time. So you might, shoot a few hours of film and then you're going to keep shooting. But if you have an editor that's ready to go, you could get them those first couple of hours of footage so that they could get started on editing. So that's something to keep in mind for the 48-hour film project, is if you can make that happen, that's a great way to kind of get ahead on the editing, is to start editing before you finish shooting. So just a little tip there. Okay, so yeah, so basically editing is about taking all the footage that you shot and then choosing the best takes. Sometimes if you have that log that I just showed you, it'll be clear what the best takes are, but the editor will also have some control. So if you shot a close-up of a face and then you shot a 2-shot with 2 actors in the frame, and then you shot some sort of really long shot, they would chop that all up and figure out what part of the scene makes sense to have the close-up and what part of the scene makes sense to have the long shot, the wide shot. I'm gonna take a sip of water. Okay, so that's editing the pictures, figuring out the best takes, but then for sound, right, you don't have to rely on just what you filmed. You can add in some sound effects, you can add in some music, and for that, again, you want to get permission to use it. There's, again, if you Google royalty-free music on the web, you'll get some great sites that exist now where people are just happy to share their music with the world to either get a credit in a movie or just get people knowing about them. So that's kind of a cool way to find free music. But you do want to, if it doesn't say that it's free, then you need to get permission. And but in the context of 48-hour film project, you're probably not going to have time to do that. So I would highly recommend either if you have a friend that makes music, get something from them, or going to one of these sites and getting royalty-free music. And there's something called looping dialogue, and that's when maybe you shot a scene and it turned out that you can't even hear the actors. So what you could do is just bring them just a microphone to repeat their dialogue. In the context of 48-hour film project, I don't know if you're going to have time to get this fancy, but it might be worth doing if there's like a really, really critical scene and you really can't hear the actors. That's obviously going to, for the judges, going to make life difficult for them. So, and your audience. So you want to, if you can, fix that by just recording audio with the actors and then sliding that into the scene. And then if there's any other sound issues, there's a lot of good software out there that can help you. If there was, like I said, a train went by or something loud happened in the background, there's some good software out there that can help you reduce those types of sounds. And then if you have time, it'd be good to show people the rough cut. On any other kind of project, for sure, you would do this. You would show people the rough cut and get feedback from them. And then take that feedback and bring it back into the editing room, make some edits. And color correction is when you take the film and instead of just using, whatever light you had in the moment, you can actually get in there and make corrections. Like if you think about when you take pictures on your phone, you can put those filters on there. It's kind of like that. Or Photoshop, if you've ever used Photoshop to do, make something lighter or darker. You can do that with a video as well. So if you have time, these are kind of bonus things you can do if you have time. And then do like a final sound mix. So sometimes you don't want your music to be so loud that you can't hear your dialogue, or maybe one set of dialogue sounds nice and loud, but another part of the dialogue sounds soft. So you want to get in there and make sure that they all sound about the same volume. And then something important, again, in terms of planning ahead, is figuring out how long is it going to take you to export your final video so that you can submit it. And I'm guessing you're going to upload it somewhere. So leaving enough time, depending on your bandwidth, to figure out how long it's going to take both to do the export from your video editing software, and then how long is it going to take to upload it. So that's something you could test even right now, right? You could just take some random footage that's about how long you think your movie is going to be, 4 or 5 minutes, and see how long it takes to export, and then see how long it takes to upload to YouTube or any place like that, so that you can kind of know, okay, I've got to leave an hour and a half at the end to do these last couple stages. So you don't want to go through all this trouble and then miss the deadline because your computer is taking too long to upload it. So just figure that out in advance. So back to our theme. Think ahead, plan ahead, figure out what could go wrong, and try to have a backup plan for how to make sure that it doesn't go wrong, or if it does go wrong, that you have you have a plan for what you can do. So I've maybe talked really fast. So we're at about the half-hour mark, and I did want to take questions. I didn't know what exact the format would be. I thought I'd be able to see people, but hopefully, if there are questions, we'll be able to take some.
Okay, well, let's see. I don't see any at this time, but I'll give people time to post. So while waiting for that, I'm curious to know, just not from the production side of things, but from the feeling and how you experience the 48-hour film project. What would make you do it again? What did you experience that would make you do it again?
Yeah, so I actually, besides running the 48-hour project in Toronto, about 3 years ago, I did do a project here in Denver with about 3 or 4 other people. And I just love the collaboration and the excitement. There's a lot of adrenaline to get through to take a creative project from start to finish in 48 hours. It's really satisfying because those other projects I was talking about, those feature-length projects can take years, literally, right? Writing the script and finding someone to give you money to help make it, and then doing all that pre-production work and production work. Most feature films take 3 weeks to just do the production time, much less the beginning, the pre-production and the post-production. So it's pretty exciting to do a 48-hour project because it forces you to just get out there and do it instead of waiting until your script is perfect or until you have a certain amount of money or something. Like, you just do it. And and then to be able to show it at the end that quickly, instead of waiting around for a film festival to take it, or again, these things could take months and years. So that's the main thing, is just kind of the instant gratification of being able to get your project made and then out into the world for people to see.
So I remember at the time, I had asked you when you had finished to describe the experience and how you were feeling in one word. And at the time, you said humbled. And so that just leads me to ask, is like, if you were a participant in this 48-hour film festival, it's like, is there any one thing that you would do differently?
Very good memory there. I think when I was saying that, my thought was that, I've made these films and I can just come in here and do this. But every project is new. Every set of people working together is new. So I think the biggest piece of advice I would have is to pick a team that you can work well with, and that, like, even if things go wrong, you're gonna just have a laugh about it and move forward. Not that anything bad happened on my team, but just things are going to go wrong. So I would say the main thing to just be prepared is you're going to have this vision of how it's going to go and all the things you want to do, but start with the things you have to have. Like when you're making that shot list and deciding what you're going to shoot each day, figure out, like, what's the most important thing. So what are the things that use the thematic elements, for example? Make sure that all of that gets shot so that you have that no matter what else happens. And then, if these other things get shot, then that's gravy, right? So the other thing I didn't really mention during production is really having someone. There's a reason there's an assistant director on big films, is because that person's job is to not get carried away so much in the creative part, but to really be watching the clock and really figuring out, okay, we said we wanted to shoot 5 scenes today and it's 3 p.m. and we've only shot 2, what are we going to do? Like, we have some hard decisions we have to make, or are we all agreed that we're going to just stay here till midnight? Just someone who's really keeping track of the time as you go is really important, to make sure that you're going to stay on task. And then you really have to leave enough time for the editing. Like you can't be shooting. I really recommend being done with filming at the end of the first day, so that you have plenty of time the second day to do your editing and all the parts I talked about. So, get your picture editing done, and then have time to make the sound really nice, because sound makes a big difference in the quality. So just leaving time for everything, I think, is really important.
So thank you for that. And we have a comment that's like, ooh, that's a great recommendation. And also another question is, do you have a favorite project that you worked on?
I think
choose one of your babies. Which was the favorite project?
Well, I would say the one I showed you, the trailer, there's a reason I showed you that one, because I just loved that we were able to evoke the 1960s and find all the great props that we did in cars. And then, I don't know if you remember, the very last scene is her walking on the prairies. So this was in Manitoba, Canada. And I just loved that we could have the really intimate scenes inside, and then have some really big landscape scenes, and have that balance. So that's something I didn't talk about, was B-roll. So so you have all your scenes planned out of your people, your actors doing the different scenes. But if you can, something that'll really kind of add to the aesthetics of the film is, if you can shoot, just what's the bigger natural world outside, or if you could go the other way and shoot, really up close, the dishes in the sink, or, just things that aren't people talking. Really think about the visual elements. So when I was talking about the storyboards, that's what that's for, is to take your script, even if it's just stick figures, just think about, like, okay, for this scene, they're in the kitchen and we're going to, shoot them doing their dialogue, but we're also going to, one of them's going to be chopping vegetables, and we're going to zoom in on the knife, banging on the butcher block, so really, just, if you can, just try to think visually. And there's a reason I'm mostly a producer and not a director, is because, and a writer, I'm mostly a writer as well, as I care a lot about the dialogue and less about thinking like, well, how far from the cupboard should we be? Or, should we be inside the teacup? My brain just doesn't necessarily think that way visually. So make sure there's someone on your team that cares about the words, and then maybe it might be someone different who cares a lot about the visuals. And, if someone wants to be a videographer, usually that's the person that's caring more about the visuals.
Wonderful. So I'm going to ask you a final question about your Pueblo connections. But before I do that, I would really like to know, so it's like you talked about the producing. Next week, Wednesday, we'll be having another workshop on the editing. Could you say just a little more about the connection between the producing and the editing?
Yes, I presume you don't mean the connection between this particular producer and this particular editor. So
the relationship between the producing and the editing.
Sure. So I think as we talked about, there's the three phases. So there's a great quote that a movie is made. Now is it going to be 3 times or 4 times? But first it's made on paper, then it's made on film, and then it's made on the editing suite. So I can't stress enough how important the editing phase is. That I think a lot of people really focus on the filming stage, and that's again why I would say stop filming, at midnight or something on the first day, so that you have as much time as possible for editing, because the editing is going to be what makes it artistic, what makes the difference between again, just 2 people standing on the screen talking, and mixing in those other elements that we were thinking of, and mixing in, music. How's the music going to affect the scene? Is it going to be upbeat? Is it going to be sad? Is it going to be scary? So, so producing for me is a creative act. So the producer should be working closely with the writer and the director and the editor so that everyone's on the same page. And, you know, so again, on a small project like this, probably the director and producer are the same person. But hopefully everyone's thinking in the mindset of a producer of like, okay, what's it going to take for whatever someone signed up for to happen? So if they signed up to be the videographer, you know, really thinking again about that shot list, or if they signed up to be the editor, making sure they have everything they need ahead of time. And so that's, again, what next week will be about, is making sure that conversation is happening between the person who's going to be shooting and the person who's going to be editing. And if it is the same person, making sure that they're as organized as possible ahead of time. And, you know, have, like so I was talking about the free music, have that website ready to go, you know, have everything ready to go, because you can get everything prepared before the 48 hours start. You just can't actually, you know, start writing your script and doing the filming. So the more prepared you can be and the more conversations you can have with each of the people who's going to be involved, including the editor, the better.
Thank you. And so I asked because I do want to invite everyone who's watching with us tonight to come back next week. So October 21st at 6 p.m., we will be having the second portion of this workshop series, Editing 101, in preparation for our 48-hour film project. So thank you very much for sharing your expertise. I'm really glad that you were able to join us, Polly. And I want to remind everyone that, yes, October 21st, Editing 101, but Friday, October 23rd, will be the reveal of the thematic elements. And so I'm very excited to have all of you join us. So thank you for your time, both of, you know, those watching, and thank you for your time for sharing all of your expertise with us during this workshop.
Sure. Good luck, everyone. Hope you have a great time. Have fun. If I didn't say that, make sure you have fun. Like, this should be a great time.
Yes, have fun. Say goodbye to everybody in Pueblo.
Bye-bye, Pueblo.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.